In a previous video, I showed you how to model this arched window. And what I'd like to do in this video is to show you how to relatively easily texture it using an image texture of wood, which I have found on this website called Ambient CG. All right, it's ambientcg.com. And if you go there and you click here, and then you type wood, the wood that I'm going to be using is this third one here. So if I click on that, you see a preview of the wood. And just click on this here. I'm using the 2K JPEG.zip. Click on that and it will download to your computer, and then you unpack it. And it comes with a number of maps, as you can see right there. I'm pretty much going to be using just the color image because it's still a little bit easier for this video. So when you unpack it, it will look like this. Now, there were a couple of extra images that I just deleted, which were not useful at all. But you can see it's got some color, it's got a displacement map, a normal map for OpenGL and DX, and roughness. And it's got the preview as well. And if you've never done this before, don't worry about it. We're only going to be using this image. So save that to your computer somewhere. And we're going to apply that wood onto here. So what we need to do is we need to create a material for this. So I'm going to click on the outer frame and scroll down here to where you see this circle down here. It says material properties. Click on that and I'm going to click new. I want a new material, and I can double click here and give it a name, and I'm going to call this wood. Now I want that wood material, which we don't see yet, on all of the pieces that should be wood. So I want it on there. So if I just click on this, I can then click here and select wood. And I'm also going to want it on here, on these window frames, wood. I think I've got everything. You can go back and just look and see if the name is on there. Wood and wood. This stuff here, I'm going to call glass. I'm going to create a new material for the glass piece. That's not going to be wood, so I'm going to click new, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to call it glass. So if I just click on here, I can see I have two materials, wood and glass, and they are on the correct parts. All right, now if I come over, I'm just going to select that and come over to the shading tab here, click on that, you can see that my window has turned white, and it's moved me to here, the viewport shading. Before we were here, and it's automatically put on this. So this is the view that you would use to see the shading. Okay, and here you can see the name wood, and then you can see a couple of things here. I've got this big rectangular box which is called the principled BSDF, and that connects by this little line here to surface, material output, surface. So this is what is created when you create a new material in Blender. Now, if you're using a newer version of Blender, your principled BSDF looks a little bit different, and I apologize for the differences. You should still be able to follow this. All right, so we want to put the wood on here, and we know which wood we want to use. So what I'm going to do is, because I have the Node Wrangler enabled, and to do that, you click Edit, Preferences, select Add-ons, and up here Search, start typing in Node, and Node Wrangler is one of them on here. You need to make sure that you put a check mark in here and then save your preferences. All right, Node Wrangler comes with Blender, and it will be useful in a number of situations. So make sure that this is active, and because it's active, you can then click on the principled BSDF, and to add the wood material, I'm going to press, and I don't have my screencast keys on, Control and T. That was Control T to do that. Now I'm going to press G, and with all these selected, and just move these up and out of the way. So what did that do? Well, that brought in this box called the texture coordinate, and you can see there's a line coming out of UV. Now that's going to be important, and that goes into this mapping node. These boxes are called nodes. That's not really important. That's if you want to change the scale and rotation and stuff of the wood, and we're not going to use this, but I'm just going to leave it there. And then that connects, and this is all done automatically, so you don't have to set this up. That connects to an image texture, and that is the wood image that we are going to use. So we're going to click on open, and we're going to find the wood that we want, and we're going to click on just the color in this particular tutorial. All right, so click on the color and choose open image. And you can see that it's loaded that, and there's some values in here. We're not going to have to change any of that. And now you can see some wood on your model. But it doesn't look very good. It kind of looks just kind of like it's just a brown color. And I don't see any actual wood. And that is because we need to do something called UV unwrapping. And you could do all kinds of videos just on that topic. And we're going to touch on it very basically here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the UV editing tab, which will open the UV editing window. And the UV editing window shows just this square with other little squares in it, almost like graph paper. All right. And I'll just go back into object mode. You can also see our window down here, although we don't see it in any color. So what you can do is come over here and use your scroll wheel down and up to move this along. You keep scrolling to the end, we now have these circles again. I want to click on the second one here for viewport shading. So we now have the viewport shading going, and we have the UV editing window. So what we're going to do is a process called UV unwrapping, and that will help us get our textures on properly. Before I do anything though, I'm going to click here and choose the wood image and scroll out, and you can see the wood fills this box. And the reason we can select this is because we created a material called wood, and in the shading tab we actually loaded that right on this image node. We loaded it, and so Blender can find it and display it here. So it looks good here, doesn't look good here because this is not unwrapped. Now we're going to take this one step at a time. What I'm going to do is select the outer frame and go into edit mode. If I select this all with A, and then if I press U for unwrap, I get the UV mapping menu here, and you can see there are a number of choices here. If I want to just simply unwrap, I can try that. I can click that, and it creates this. And that sort of looks like our thing. In fact, if I took this and I just rotated it 90 degrees, maybe scaled it down a bit so it fit in there, if I go back into object mode, you can now start to see something on here. But it doesn't look like it's the right orientation. And I mean, it's kind of like wrapping a present. You have to cut the paper and fold it properly to cover all the corners. What we're actually going to do is open this present. We're going to actually cut this thing open because U on its own, if I select and press U again, unwrap didn't unwrap it in a way that the texture would work. And think of it this way as well. If this is sort of the profile or the shape anyhow of the arch, look at the grain of the wood. It's like going this way, and it'd be all over the place on this thing, right? It just would not follow the object at all. And we want it to follow the object. Now, I'm just going to show you a way that you can do this, and I'm not going to expect that it's going to make a lot of sense, but just follow along anyhow if you want to texture your window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and make sure I'm in edge selection. And to do that, I'm going to I can scroll my mouse wheel again, come back up. Remember, it's this one, this middle one, or you just press 2. And I'm going to zoom into this corner, and I'm going to press Shift and Alt and click that edge. So that's the entire edge going through the model. Think of it like scissors, like I'm going to cut this. I'm also going to do the other side, Shift Alt and click there. And I can't actually physically cut this thing. So what I do now is I'm going to press Control E, and I'm going to choose Mark Seam. Now I think that was also in this menu here when I pressed U. All right, for UV mapping, Mark Seam. Now watch this. That just changed the color to this sort of bright orange. And now that's telling Blender that these are parts I want to cut. So if I select A, the whole thing again, and I have these cut points, it's going to cut here, this will be a separate piece, and this will be a separate piece. And you'll say, well, what the hell good is that? Well, let's check it out. Now go U and unwrap, and now I have this. Now, one thing you can do is I'm going to deselect for a moment. I'm going to come over here to this arrow that's going up and down diagonally. I click that, and I box select this part, or I select a little bit of it actually, and Control L. Doesn't always work too well. Let's do it this way. Let's select a little face over here on this piece. You can see it lighting up on this side. So in other words, I'm going to Shift Alt and click like that. This piece here represents this, and it sort of has the same shape. Let me rotate this 90 and just G to move it. It sort of looks like that piece. This is the rest of this, but it's not looking too nice. In fact, we don't want it curved. What we actually want is we want this straight and following the grain. Now, I can't explain that much better than that, so I'm going to show you how you can straighten this. Now, there's a couple of ways. One way is I'm going to turn this off and A to select again. If I select a piece of this and go Control L, like we did before, to choose what's linked, Control L, and I want to straighten this, there is an add-on that used to be free. If I press N, it used to be free, and now you have to pay for it. It's called UV Squares, and I use it all the time because I can do something quick. If I was to click to grid by shape, it straightened this right off the bat. Now, I'm not going to show you the results of that yet because we're going to do it by hand. So I'm going to Control Z to get out of there and N to close that. So if you want to find that, just type in UV Squares and you'll find it on Blender Market and you can buy it. But if we have to do this by hand, what we want to do is we want to, hopefully we can find, I'm going to press 3, just it's a little easier. We want to find a nice square, a quad, that we can straighten a little bit and use that to straighten this all out. And though I'm going to show you how to do that. So, in other words, I'm not going to go for this one on a real angle. I'm going to try to find something in the middle, like this one here. All right, I'm going to press 1 for vertex selection because we're going to select points. Select this point, hold Shift, select this one. I want to straighten these in there are 2 axes, the y-axis and the x-axis, just like high school graph. So to do that, I'm going to press Scale Y0. Scale it in the y-axis 0. SY0. And it straightens it out. Now watch this one. And it may not have to do that much because I chose one that's not bad. You have to get the top straight, the bottom straight, and both sides. So now for this one, SY0, and it straightens it out. It moves it a little bit, but that's okay. Now we're going to do the X, this one and this one. And when I say X, you might think, well, it's the line is vertical, but it's the points along the X-axis. Like it looks like one of these points is ever so slightly further along the X-axis. So I'm going to go SX0, SX0, straighten it a little bit. It pulled this one out. Take this one, and don't forget which quad you're working on. SX0. Now press 3 for face selection and select this face, just so we have it. I can zoom out now. All right, we have made this a perfect square. And what we're going to do is we're going to select all of this, but this one is going to stay active because I clicked on it. All right, so if I come out here, you see, I'm clicked on that. I'm now going to press Control L to get the rest of them, and this one sort of stays this, I don't know, a whitish gray color. It's like the reference point. It's like, I'm going to say, okay, straighten out everybody just like I am. And the way we do this is we press U with your cursor in this screen, U, and then follow active quads. Follow the active quad that I selected. Follow me. And then it'll say edge length mode, length average. You don't have to change anything, just go okay. And we've straightened it. So you can use the add-on that I showed you, this UV squares, or you can do it manually. And we'll have to do this again for this piece. Now, has this worked? Well, let's have a look at this. Not looking too good yet. So let's try this. Let's take this and let's rotate this to follow the grain. R90, just rotate 90. G, you can move it. Just move it wherever you want. Whatever is underneath this will have the wood texture that is underneath. Let's look at that. That's starting to look pretty cool. All right. So I'm going to come back in, and with that selected, and if it's not selected anymore, okay, like over here, just select a piece and go Control L. I just want that. And make sure it's selected here. So go A to select it. And I think we can do better. Let's scale this. Let's just go S. You want to globally scale it, not in the X or in the Y alone. S. Pull it out a nice amount and then look again. All right. And so that's what you'll need to do. Let's try again, because those edges are looking, although that pattern is looking a bit big. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Now, this piece here doesn't really seem to match up, this bottom one here. So I'm going to click there and Control L. And because I have these seams marked, these cut points, it doesn't select the rest of the arch. So I just selected a little bit of it in any mode. I'm in face selection right now. Control L. And I get this. And then now I can select it over here. I have to press A over here, A. And I'm going to scale it up big as well. And now it somewhat matches. Now you can play with it until you get it, the way you like it. But I think that's reasonably good. So we have done that part. Now we're going to do this part here. All right. So we're going to come into edit mode. And I can do these pieces individually. I want to do the arch because it's similar to what we just did. So I'm going to select a little bit of that and go Control L. I'm just going to get that part. All right. Let's try a U unwrap with no seams. Just try it like this. Okay, hold on. We get just something bent. It looks like we could probably straighten that. I don't have to even put seams. I did on this one because it wasn't just the arch. We were able to straighten the arch, but it also had this piece connected to it. This one is just half a circle. So let's see what we can do with the same thing. I just deselected over here. I want to find a square that's easy enough to change so that it's sort of flat and square. These are not perfect squares. They're rectangles, but let's see if we can get this to work anyhow. I think I'm going to use this one here. So I'm going to press 1 for vertex selection, select this one, hold shift, select that one, and scale it in the Y, SY0. Do this one, hold shift in this one, SY0. Okay, now this one and this one, SX0, this one and this one, SX0. Go back into face selection, number 3, and select that face. Again, it's a rectangle. We'll see how well it works. Let's go Control L. That will select everything else, and I've still got this one active. Let's try and see if we get a straight line. With your mouse cursor over here in the UV window, press U, follow active quads, and OK. And it did straighten out for us. All right, so let's just look at it here. It's now put it so the grain goes like that. which is not exactly what we want. So let's select it here and let's rotate by 90. And you don't even have to position it over here. This is a seamless texture, so it will continue in all directions. Let's look at that. Look at that. The grain pretty much goes all the way around. Let's just change the size of this. I am going to move it roughly centered. And I'm going to do this. And it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I think it could probably pass for what we're doing. Okay. And you can just move it around. Maybe you prefer, I think I prefer that spot for that. Okay, so we are going to now choose these three things. I can do all three of them at the same time. Select that part, but we got to get the rest of it. So go Control plus. That's all of these. And to unwrap these, let's try just unwrap. Well, they came in very straight, and so that is fine. And really, those worked because there's no back on them. They are simply like a piece of paper that is folded. You got a piece of paper here, and it's just folded back, okay? And you could easily unfold it and have a flat piece of paper, and that's essentially what unwrapping does. It makes it flat. It may not be in a straight line or anything. It may be curved, but it's basically flat. And so these did not need any special seams. So if you ever have like a piece of wood where you don't have the back and you don't have the tops, if we had the top there and the bottom there, we'd have another problem. We'd have to do something. And I'll show you a technique we're going to use anyhow. Okay, fine, but the grain is going sideways on these, and I think it would look better if it went up and down. So let's just take all of this selected, rotate 90, and let's just maybe position it somewhere and scale it up and have a look. We'll look with better lighting later. And this is not necessarily going to look fantastic zoomed right in, all right? But from a reasonable point, it's going to look okay. And we can also, of course, change the lighting here. I just scrolled my mouse to get there. Turn that off. Scroll my mouse till I came over here beside the viewport shading, and I can change the light to something else. You know, and that might be helpful to see some of this. All right. Well, we need to go on. So we've done this part, and now let's work on this. Okay. So I need to UV unwrap this piece, and I need to go Control plus to get all of it. Let's try just a straight unwrap because, again, there's no back on these. These might just be like folded paper. Let's try it. Unwrap. All right, and we're getting, again, straight lines, so that's really good. This one's not bad. The grain is kind of going this way. But on this piece, I'd like the grain to go vertically. So I'm going to take this one first, Control plus, and I'm just going to scale it out because we've been scaling these and get it to kind of feel like it matches with this stuff. And so you can do as much as you want. And if I don't like that piece there, which is this, I can just move it up here. Yeah, that looks good. This piece here, I'm going to select that and Control plus. And this one is standing upright, but the grain is going this way. So I'm going to rotate 90. Let's just check that out. Now the grain looks like it's going the right way, but maybe I want to move it. Maybe I want to scale it. And you just sort of position these in slightly different positions so the wood looks a bit different. That's starting to look really nice. All right, now we have this stuff to do. And there's a couple of different ways to do this, but I want to suggest that we come in here, to select it all. Let's try another unwrapping method. Oh, actually, we may not need to. Let's try unwrap again. Oh, that gave us this, which may not work too well. And so I want to try another method. When you're using things that are rectangular, box-like things, you're making buildings and wood beams and stuff, you can often use this. Select it all, and then choose Smart UV Project, which will do it automatically for you. Smart UV Project, and then you get a dialog box or a menu. And the only one that's really important to us is this island margin, which tells how close to put these orange pieces together. And I often will use a value of 0.002 or something like that. And then click OK. And that just puts a little space in between here so they don't overlap. And as you can see, everything is pretty clean. Let's just look at this now. Let's zoom in on this. And I kind of want to change the direction of some of the grain as well as the scale. Let's just go in first and change the scale with everything selected in S. Let's just make it all bigger. And then we'll see if any of it looks good. Well, I'm getting nice grain, but I like this grain to go vertical, this to go horizontal. Now, the only thing is, the way I built this is really a continuous piece. If this was a real wood frame, you would have cuts here, and this piece would fit into this one. Then it makes sense for the grain to go horizontal here and vertical. When it's joined, it may not work that well, but we're going to do it anyhow. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to deselect everything and go into face selection. Where is face selection? I guess this one here, or 3. And I'm going to Shift Alt and click. And that selects just the faces of that piece. All right. And I'm going to, I think I will deselect, box select these and move them over and rotate 90 so they're, and G to move them close. So they're all in the same orientation, and I'll grab them again. Okay, I'm going to scale them and just move it wherever I want. This grain is going horizontal, which is fine. Let's do the same for this bottom one here. Select that, Shift Alt and click there. All right, I want to change the orientation of this. Rotate 90, G, pull it down. Doesn't matter where. Rotate 90, G, pull it down. Doesn't matter where. Box select all of them. Bring them up, scale them. All right, we got some grain going like that. This one goes to the side. I don't like that. The other one goes to the side. Let's see if we can do both the same. Shift Alt and click, Shift Alt and click. All right, I've got everything. I can see it's going vertical and the grain is going this way. Let's just rotate 90, scale. That's better. Now we got to do these ones. Okay, I'm going to do this bar, Shift Alt and click this bar, rotate 90, scale. They're going the right way. These ones I want vertical. Shift Alt and click, or just select and Control L. Same thing. All right, rotate 90. Just drag them over, scale them a bit. There. Now the grain goes sideways. Just trying to get you so you can see it, and up and down. And we need to do the same on this one. Let's just do it quick. All right. Let's go back to layout and turn on material preview here and see how we're doing. Now this has got a different lighting, so we can try different lights. Now before we move on to the glass, there's something that we can do to improve the look of this. It's very smooth. The wood's looking great, but it's very smooth. And what we're going to do is just select a piece of the wood, come to the shading tab. I'm just going to drag that up so we can see a little bit better. And I'm going to box select this and G to pull it out. We're going to add some bumps to this. And I'm going to use the image texture, the color, to do that, which is kind of a cheating way. But look, this is a relative beginner's kind of video, and so I don't want to get into too much other stuff. I'm going to have to bring in 2 more nodes. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to scroll down to Converter, and then Color Ramp. Click that, and then it's attached to my cursor. I'm just going to come down here and click to let it go. I'm going to grab these and just move them out a little bit. Just move this in. I'm going to click on the color circle here and pull down, and that'll pull out a little wire, a little noodle, and just touch that circle and let go. That's going to attach to the color ramp. And we're going to need another node, Shift A, and choose Vector, Bump, and just drop it there. Take the color circle, pull out, connect to height. It's very important it goes into height. And then this is going to come out, this normal is going to attach to the normal on your principal BSDF. But the strength is going to be too much. We'll see in a minute. Now the idea is this. This is a color image, and bump is a black and white kind of thing. And so the color ramp, as you can see, has black and white, and it actually converts this color into black and white, which is what we need. So don't worry about that too much, just do it. And you can see a strength here, and I'm going to plug the normal, scroll down to the normal, and watch the model. It got very bumpy, and that's because this is set, strength set to 1. Try something like 0.2 and see what that looks like. Now it looks a little cartoony, I admit, but I actually really like it. So we've got some bump, and you can go lower than that. You can go like 0.1. Try that. We just don't want it smooth. The other thing is whether or not how rough you want this. If I drag it to the left, it gets very shiny. And if I drag it to the right, and I think I'm going to bring it to about there. And I might actually go to 0.15 just because I'm in a cartoony kind of mood. Let's go back to layout and see that. I'm going to try just, yeah, that one. So we got some really cool kind of wood on there. All right. Now, if I come up here in my version of Blender, in the old version of Blender, when you're using Eevee, we're not rendering itself. If you could add ambient occlusion here, and I'm really sad that they took it out. I'm not sure if there's a way you can get ambient occlusion in material preview and not just in the render, in the compositor. But I'm going to switch this to 1, and I'm going to switch this to 2. You're going to see it's quite a bit more shadowy. All right, well, okay. Now, the last thing we want to do, oh, I might just turn that on and that. Anyways, I'm not going to render. The last thing we want to do is the glass. I'm going to select the glass, and I'm not going to actually use glass. I'm going to come over to the materials here, and what I see here is mimicked in the shading tab here for the glass. All right, so you can do it anywhere. I'm going to go back to layout, and I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to change the base color to sort of a little bit of a bluish color. Maybe you can choose whatever color you want. And I'm going to see the metallic here. I'll just pull that out. Metallic, I'm going to slide it all the way up to 1. And I'm going to take the roughness and watch. If I slide it all the way down to like 0, it reflects. It's like a mirror now. And I'm just going to bring it up a little bit. And that's what I'm going to use for the glass in this particular video. Okay, maybe I'll rough this a little bit more. There are other things that you can do, of course, to make it look like glass, and if you want it to be transparent. I don't in this case. All right, so with that done, I've got everything stored in one collection, and my 3D cursor at the bottom. So I'm going to press Shift-A, Collection Instance, Collection, and then I'll bring another window in. I'm going to pull it over, rotate Z, and I'm going to push and get it to look like that. So I get a couple of them in there. And I'm going to Shift A, Light, Sun. I'm just going to pull that out. And I'm going to come up here and turn on for lighting, Scene Lights, change the strength to about 4, and then just press R. And you can start seeing the sun and some shadow there. I just wanted a little bit of something so you can see a bit of shadow there. And we have our windows. And then you can always experiment with different different HDRIs here. I'm trying to decide which one I really want to use. Let's say I use that. I'm going to deselect those and turn off my screencast keys and press Control Spacebar. And at this point, without rendering, just center those in there. You could take a screenshot and you could have a nice product. You can have a nice image that you can still, do some post-processing on. We could talk about rendering and lighting another time, but we've managed to get our wooden texture on there. And if we wanted to try a different wood, just for as one last thing, I can come here. I'm going to click this button here for new material. This is wood 001. And all I have to do is come to the wood texture, the wood image, open it, and let's try this wood, this color. Let's just see if it looks any good. All right, let's see. The grain still seems to be going the right way. If you really like that, I'm not sure. I'd prefer the other one. But if you wanted to, you could select this wood. Let's turn that back on. This wood, and then the one with the new wood last, and then go Control L, link materials, and it'll put it on all of it. And you now have a new variation of your window. All right, so you can try different woods. I'm going to actually go back because I prefer that one. I like that one. All right, so we've done our job. We modeled the arch window and we put on a texture, and that was free. This was an image texture. In terms of doing dirt and scratches and all that, that's a whole other thing. And really, I tend to use Substance Painter for that. And so I have various videos on that. So I hope that was relatively easy enough to follow along. You can try putting this wood on things like wagon wheels using the same kind of technique where you get the UV map, and then you use that, you straighten it, and then use that follow active quartz to get the grain to go around the wagon wheel. You should try that next. Or an old clock like a ship's wheel. Oh, that's another thing. I've done a ship's wheel clock, or even just a ship's wheel like you'd see on a pirate ship, and you want the grain of the wood to go around in a circle. All right, thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and hope to see you back here again.